What's your favourite TV show?
XTV, definitely. It's absolutely hilarious. I watch it every single night. Yeah, first thing I do, as soon as I get in, shoes off, tea, sit down. After that, I'm not moving once I've got it on. Forget it.
What's it called again?
XTV.
I am a great enthusiast of refrigerator magnets.
Drinking in graveyards with Stewart Lee. Have you ever eaten mushy peas?
Yes.
Welcome to David's Late Night Recipes, and I'm going to be talking about stuff that you cook when you get home from the pub and you've not got a right lot in. One thing I found was it was great to have a deep fat fryer in the house, because they cook pretty quick and you can fry pretty much anything. And one recipe I used to quite enjoy was deep fat fried whole onions. So you could fry it for...
You didn't used to enjoy them.
I did.
It's just what we happen to have in the house. That's the only thing. We'd have a couple of flipping onions on the side. Didn't they enjoy? There's no enjoyment.
They're nice. It's not, they are nice. You fry one of those for, I can't remember how long it fried it for, maybe between 5 and 10 minutes. And they're quite exciting to watch the fry, because the whole... I can't remember how I used to eat it, whether I sliced it up or eat it whole. Probably with tomato sauce. Sounds foul, doesn't it, now thinking about it, but I used to enjoy it. But so that's a good one if you're desperate. But you've got to have a deep fat fryer. You don't want to start messing with oil in a pan, do you, really? Like that.
My favourite noise, I would have to say, is probably the noise of melting marzipan. And it always has been my favourite noise, because it's treacly and it's big and it's fruity and it just dribbles over a radiator very nicely. So marzipan has always been my favourite noise, to the point where a while ago I thought I was actually going to change my name to Marzipan, because it's such a thoroughly nice noise.
You heard it all the time on working tax credit. It was like this, like
it's like a funky duck.
Yeah.
We're on Southgate Road in Hackney, next to the delicatessen that Dominic Cummings gets shouted at by. And we're outside the house of Nellie Power, who's the first of the 3 musical comics that lived around here that we're going to look at today. She had a song written for her called The Boy I Love Is Up in the Gallery. You sort of became the owner of a song. If it was written for you, it was your song, and that was how you made your name with that piece of material. It's an interesting song because it's about the act of her being a performer and looking at someone that likes her, so it's kind of weirdly self-aware. So she was doing really well with that song, and then a young upstart teenager called Mary Lloyd started singing it, and there was a sort of understanding that you shouldn't sing a song that someone else had already paid for themselves to sing. And Nellie Power took Mary Lloyd to task about it, but the publisher favoured Mary Lloyd from what I can see, and Mary Lloyd went on to be history, and within a couple of years of losing her song, Nellie Power in 1887 was dead at the age of 32. And there's a rather unfair depiction of her in the Mary Lloyd biopic as being a grumpy, resentful, massively overweight, middle-aged woman being rude and patronising to Mary Lloyd. But I think she was probably a talent in her own right. But like all these people, there's no real evidence left to know exactly what she was like.
Sometimes I think I've lost something and then I open a box up and I think, oh, there it is.
You're watching Eggs TV.
Wooden shutters across these gaps, known as embrasures, protected you from enemy fire.
Oh, who's that? Oh, it's Ian Mackaye.
Oh.
Hello.
The first time I went to England, which would have been 1981, I was rodeoing for Black Flag in December of 1981. The circumstances were so extreme. We had zero money. Every day we were given 2 buns, a hunk of cheese, and an apple. That's what we got to eat every day. The only British television I was aware of as a younger person would have been Monty Python and Fawlty Towers.
Python?
Well, I would say Python, but people always say Python.
And we say Python.
When clouds of solar particles stream toward our planet, some of them are caught in its magnetic field and form enormous nebulous envelopes, detectable only by instrument probes far out in space.
Yeah, I remember when we used to live on planet Earth.
I do.
Yeah.
Good times actually on there.
But it was unusual, you know, the way, you know, you had like different rooms for like different activities, you know, with the kitchen, living room, bedroom, bathroom, you know, rather than the new way.
Yeah, and like if you lived at the bottom of your house, it was damp like a cellar, and then.
Yeah, it could be.
Do you know what I mean? Like that concept of heat. That's weird, rising, isn't it? You know.
Heat rising now. Yeah.
It's weird that the idea of heat and stuff and damp and all that.
Yeah.
Can't believe it when you look back.
It's good that we've moved on in a way, but I do miss the beds.
Yeah.
You know, I really do.
Right, stand with your legs wide apart, arms down by the side of your body. Now, deep breath and let's go on. Are you ready? Here we go. A 5, a 6, 5, 6, 7, and stretch right and left and right and left and clasp.
I'm Katie Puckrick, and this is Eggs TV. You knew that.
I've got lots of books. Books on travel, historical fiction, books on Lancaster, science fiction, big books and little books, and hardback books and paperback books, and books on Twin Peaks, and books on spirituality, and books on philosophy, and books on spelling, and books about words, and books about poets and plays, and books about music, and books about art and stories and Greek myths and languages. I don't actually read very fast. I'm quite a slow reader. I read like I'm speaking in my head to myself. Not like Johnny Five from Short Circuit. I didn't really like reading when I was a kid. I thought it was boring and a chore. I didn't like it at school either. But then I met a few people in Lancaster who turned me on to some books that I'd never read before. I remember my friend Darren lending me American Psycho when I was 14, and he said, "Don't tell your mum and dad." And that was it, really. That was the start of it. And then after that, that's kind of all I wanted to do. Read, just to read and read. And read and read and read, you know.
When you think of the Middle Ages, what comes to mind first?
Here we are in Hackney, just around the corner from Nellie Power's house, at the home of Herbert Campbell. There's a plaque been put up there by the Music Hall Guild of America and Great Britain, who are brilliant in restoring old comedians' graves and putting up these plaques, so check them out online. Herbert Campbell was massive, a massive comedy star of the late 1800s. He was a huge pantomime dame. He kind of really defined that tradition. He was in a double act with Dan Leno, who was a really famous comic at the time. You might know him from the Peter Ackroyd novel, Dan Leno and the Limehouse Golem. He was part of a trend of the theatre promoters getting comedians from the music hall tradition, which was very much thought of as sort of vulgar, down-market, working-class tradition, and moving them into pantomime for the Christmas seasons, which was more of a sort of slightly genteel theatrical thing, and a lot of people complained about this because they thought it was sort of sending it in the wrong direction and spoiling it, but actually it made it an even bigger British tradition, the pantomime, and all different sorts of people started to go. Herbert Campbell's so fondly remembered and was so massive at the time, there's not really any evidence of him remaining. There's one little bit of early film, a little bit of silent footage of a big Herbert Campbell sitting down at a table and just eating and drinking loads of stuff really fast. I'm assuming that wasn't his only act. He probably said things as well, or danced or something. But the only record of him eating a lot. It's a really great bit of film. I doubt whether the Lovely Eggs will be able to clear it for this. If they do, they'll almost certainly be sued and bankrupted just for showing a fat man who's now dead eating loads of stuff. He left £4,500 when he died, which was a lot at the time, but not a massive fortune. And that was his little house. And he was the Peter Kay of 1895, and a huge star, and just sort of not remembered.
Through the jungle of a clown's intestinal cord.
Gratitude. What if you had to physically move all your stuff into the next day?
In the early days of the American punk scene, regionality ruled because none of us had actually ever seen punks really. Like, we didn't know how they moved. We heard the records and we saw the photos, but we didn't really understand how the things moved or what you did. So each town, there was people in all these different parts of the United States who saw the sort of the flare go up from London, you know, the self-definition flare. And then they said, yeah, we are in. We wanted, like, punk rock speaks to us. And then they made their own punk scene, but it was with ingredients from their town. So the early American punk scene was extremely regional. And I could tell you at that time, I could probably tell you where somebody was from by the lingo they used, by the way they dressed, even by the way they danced. I could tell you that kid's from Boston, that kid is from LA.
Do you think you can't see anyone dancing at a wedding and think, oh, that kid, that guy's from Boston or whatever? Is that all?
I mean, well, first off, I was referring to punk shows.
You are now watching XTV.
So much for the black hole theory.
So this is another room in my studio. This is kind of my bookshelf. It's actually looking really tidy at the moment. So we were trying to sell our house and the studio. So I've got some kind of, a lot of stuff, weird stuff. This is kind of a This is actually a kind of a bong, I think, that somebody gave me. It's quite a convoluted story to it, which I won't go into. Invisible dust. As you can see, it's full of invisible dust.
Do you miss motorways and stuff like that?
Gone! Probably.
Hairdryers I miss.
Yeah, well, I suppose you would. You were quite obsessed with them, and, you know.
Well, it's just nice to feel clean and like dry your hair.
Well, you do feel clean now, don't you?
Well, I do, but I don't feel refreshed because it's like that thing of I'm always clean.
The wind blowing in your face on your hairdryer.
That's what I mean. It's like when you back on Earth, like when it's like pressing reset or refresh on your, you know, your new internet browser, yeah. When you have a bath and that, and then get to wash your hair and use a hairdryer.
Yeah, I remember the
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you remember the internet?
I do, yeah. I liked it. I did like it, but you know, I think it got too much for everybody, didn't it? So I guess it had to go.
Yeah, good thing, really.
Yeah, and I think the new ways are kind of better.
It grew so huge that it was prancing around the northern hemisphere of the world and causing all kinds of terrible weather phenomena.
Hello there, my name's Andy Votel, and I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural episode of Picnic Eggs. Ask me again, Brent.
What's your project, Andy?
Well, we're up here in the Peak District with the Trek Your Head walking crew, and at the kind invite of the lovely Eggs, I've decided to do this little featurette because you know, as well as I know, in the interest of well-being and health and safety, no walk out in the mountains is truly complete without prog rock and poetry.
Obviously.
Would you say? Yeah. So I've decided to bring a picnic player up into the mountains while we bag the ethels. Now, if you don't know what ethel bagging is, viewers, you should get on Google, possibly Granada Reports with Bob Smithies, and he'll tell you exactly what's going on. But while you supply the pies, hopefully, Brent, I decided to supply the prog rock, and I've picked 5 or 6 records with egg themes. Yeah? Because the lovely Eggs are lovely people, and Eggs is eggs. So
there's eggs in the pies.
And there's eggs in the pies as well. So the picnic with the picnic player is going to be soundtracked by some great prog rock and poetry records, and there you have it. That is my treatment synopsis, say what you will, of the inaugural episode of the magazine feature known as Picnic Eggs, with me, Andy Votel from Finders Keepers Records, and the Trek Your Head walking crew.
The bicycles that somebody had thrown in, and I don't know where they come from. Neither look like them from this century or even from this world.
At a local level, those who were once important were lampooned and forced to perform absurd penances. Councillors were debagged and cajoled into dancing. The dances they were told to improvise had to convey their own personal fall from power. It was unbearable. Some who lost their minds as they tried to create routines were forced to create routines about being forced to create routines about losing their jobs and losing their minds, and so on.
Hello, my name is Tim Wells. Look in, my love. My first whistle was a silver grey number. Fender Pell, centre vent, 3 button. The bottom never done up, a nebbish I am not. White Talon socks, black brogues, white Fred Perry. My first whistle, wolf that is, was from her as I was bowling up Clapton Common, rude, ruddy, on a sunny spring morning, and I was fabulous.
Hello, Earthlings. I am the Space Lady, and you are watching Eggs TV.
Hi, I'm David Blackwell, and this is box number 2 of Miscellaneous Metal. I'll show you box number 1 later, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you through some of these things that have metals that I've just kept for repurpose. I can't stand waste, so let's just go through them. An old cake tin, not sure what I can use that for. This is off an old light. Just quite like the look of it, and I'll think of something to do with it at some point. An old frying pan. I've actually taken the handle off this, and it's like, well, you know, what can you use that for? But I'll show you something. This is actually an old pan, and I've actually turned this into a fuzz face. Guitar pedal. Works. Sounds great. I was either going to turn this into either a giant pedal, or I thought I might actually turn that into make it into a synth or something like that. Bits of wire. Here we go. Oh God, that weighs a ton. An old weight from a weightlifting set, but obviously I don't need them. You might notice I've collected like old bits of tin foil, and these are not to use again, but if you've got anything old and chrome, what happens if you store it in a damp cellar is it goes rusty, like you can see here. But this is amazing. If you actually rub where it's gone rusty with an old bit of tin foil, you know, you can use any like kitchen foil or anything that you've got in the in your cupboard, but if you rub that on there, if you did that with sandpaper, or if you did it with wire wool, which I've done before when you've got something rusty, it really scratches it. But that, it's amazing. Do that like that and it comes up amazingly shiny. Try it, you know, you'll be excited. You've been looking for something chrome to do.
This street was the final home of George Leyburn, aka Champagne Charlie. George Leyburn is one of the absolute greats of the musical. He came down to London as a young man from Newcastle. He was what was called a lion comique, a sort of social satirist. He made fun of high status men about town. And he had this song, Champagne Charlie, about a man who only drank champagne. And it became a massive hit and defined him. At the height of his fame in the 30s, he was doing 7-8 gigs a night. He was going between the different theatres in a carriage drawn by 4 white horses. Another comedian made fun of him by going around in a carriage drawn by 4 white donkeys. In the end, he got sponsored by a champagne company. And the deal was that he had to have the champagne logo on the side of his carriage going between his gigs. And he had to drink loads of champagne whilst he was going around in the open top carriage so that people could see he was really, really drinking it. Of course, inevitably, that meant that he died young at the age of 42, having incapacitated himself. So, and it's a real sort of parable of showbiz, isn't it? He got the thing that he dreamed of, but the very thing that made him famous became his downfall. There's a great biopic of him with Tommy Trinder being Champagne Charlie. A lot of the details are changed a little bit, but you really get an idea of what a massive massively popular character he would have been, right? The sort of Harry Enfield's Loads of Money of its day. Champagne Charlie was his name.
Oh, still bored? Then try this for size.
889-155-55. Hey everybody, JG here. I'm just going to take you on a quick tour of my refrigerator magnets, and I hope you like them. I am a great enthusiast of refrigerator magnets. One moment, please. Okay, here we go. Starting up here in the upper left-hand corner. I love horror movies, so you'll see a lot of that here. I love this one. And I like the ones with sayings on them too, like this. And they also have to be true. I love these. When I was a kid, we used to collect these from all the different states. I'm also a big enthusiast of blacklight posters from the 70s, and this is one of my favorites. And I like cereal boxes too. These cereal boxes which have unleashed billions of gallons of poison on all of us. Ooh, Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. Another great movie. Another great truth here. This is one of my favorite movies, Halloween 3. And it's one of the greatest scores of all time too. This is when we went to Cedar Point for my 50th birthday, and we went out to this island called Kelly's Island, and I got this weird refrigerator magnet. And this is from Portugal, of course, because I love the azulejos. Ooh, that's from Linda Berry. Dang, that's Marley's, or Marlis. I don't know how to pronounce it, but one of my favorite characters from comics. Somebody who came to visit me here once brought me this one from Colorado. It's really cheesy and horrible, but great. And here's some weird owl hanging. This one's, I'm gonna have to get a new one, a better one. This one's no good, it's getting all pale. Little Joan Collins action here. Another one of the most beautiful paintings ever. This is from the volcano eruption on the Westman Islands back in the 70s here in Iceland. Frankenberry. One of my favorite things in the whole world. These cereals, I don't eat them of course anymore, but I love these. We used to love these commercials when I was a kid. This one is one of the great questions of all time.
Will it bake? Will it drip? Will it feed? Will it treaclize?
From their tonsils!
Rust, moth, fungus, mildew, dry rot, canker, maggot, worm, wriggle, coil, roll, curl, buckle, twine, twirl, twist, wind, spiral worm. Hunt, fish, ferret, rule out, fathom, unearth, disinter, grub up, worm, ingratiate, insinuate, intrude, invade, permeate, interpenetrate, infiltrate, worm, crumbling, mouldering, rotted, blighted, decayed, corrupted, tainted, worm, corpse, carcass, cadaver, carrion, dust, earth, ashes, mummy, worm.
When it comes to playing music and being on the road or whatever, you have to think about what it is your one is trying to achieve. My sense of music, and I've said this many times, that I think music is sacred. And I don't mean sacred in a Christian sense. I mean beyond any religion. I think of music as a form of communication that likely predated language. Music as the pure form will never die. It'll always be sacred. And that's the music that I'm interested in. So I feel like that there's reasons to make music forever. And people have to do what they have to do. The problem, of course, is that there's so much money being made that people whose sole objective is to make money are involved. And those people do not care about music. That's just a fact. So it's always about, again, it's just about creative response and thoughtful navigation.
Well, on this campsite, to lose people for an hour is not unusual.
This carriage clock was presented to my grandfather, Frank Henry Bowring, when he retired from work in 1973, and doesn't really seem to work anymore, but I still have it around, and I use it to prop the door open sometimes.
Hello, you're watching Eggs TV.
Below the auroras, the Earth's thickening atmosphere becomes a shield under which human life can flourish.
Do you know what it's like? It's a bit like, it's like the book thing, you know. I thought I'd miss books, you know, being up here. And I don't as much as I thought I would, because it's just like the idea, like when you move into a house that's got instant hot water, and you think back to the time when you wanted to go out and you wanted a bath and you'd have to put the immersion heater on like an hour or 2 hours before you wanted a bath. And then you get to the new way and you think, God, I struggle so much doing that. And like, just to think about the idea of reading now, it's just mad. Do you know, it's like turning your immersion heater on an hour before you have a bath.
Yeah, no need to read, you know.
So here we are back in the Peak District, where the Trek Your Head walking crew tries to reinstate prog and poetry in the mountains of the Peak District. We've selected some records at the kind request of the lovely Eggs. Only records with an egg theme. Commencing as we hope to continue. First record up is by Egg, Canterbury group. Under the command of Dave Stewart, not that Dave Stewart, the other Dave Stewart. And you might recognise that it's a version of Fugue in D minor with a breakbeat. And there we have the first of our picnic eggs, live from the Peak District, with me, Andy Votel from Finders Keepers, and the Trek Your Head walking crew.
My friends, Spacey and Simon, they turned me on to like Brautigan and Bukowski and a lot of American literature and a lot of sort of under the radar, subversive British literature, which I'm still really keen on. Castle Freeman is a really good writer. He lives in America. He's old now. Most of my favourite authors are dead, but not him. He's alive. He lives in Vermont. And I wrote him an email. once and he wrote back to me. That was just great. Books are a bit like gravestones in my life. Even if a book's shit, I always keep them there on the shelf as a monument to the time that I've spent reading that entire book. I always like to think that when I die, my life can be measured by the books that I've read.
We're in Abney Park Cemetery now, which is just north of Newington Green. And this is the grave of William Booth from the Salvation Army, founder of the Salvation Army. Now, he coined the phrase, which you'll have heard, the devil has all the best tunes. And the brilliant thing is, William Booth said the devil has all the best tunes after going to see Champagne Charlie, George Leyburn, sing Champagne Charlie. So this is, that phrase that's in our language, the devil has all the best tunes, came about as a result of the musical people we're talking about today. And now we're going to go and see where they finished up.
I better get down there to that graveyard.
I've got Holly from the Lovely Eggs with me now because it was quite scary to be in the graveyard on my own. But this is the climax of it. This is the restored grave. This is Nellie Power, who the first person we saw this morning in on Southfield Road, who got her song stolen by Mary Lloyd and died a couple of years afterwards.
32.
32. I mean, she's not made to look 32 in the biopic. She's made to look about 50. But I think she's probably a bit of a pioneer, and she doesn't really make a. She's not even really mentioned in a lot of the books. But I'm really glad it's in such good nick. It's great.
What killed her then at 32?
I don't know what killed her. She's not really documented, you know.
10 for a pound, you gaslighters. You gaslighters. 10 for a pound.
If we can't find it, it messes up the whole idea of coming here to see all three of them. Yeah. I knew I should have researched it better. I tried to be a showbiz historian on the hoof. It's a crack pipe. Yeah. Right, what I really like... Oh, are you there? Can you see me? Oh. Well, I thought this was Herbert Campbell, but it isn't. He must be back that way. I was about to do a big thing about how this is Herbert Campbell's grave, and it's not even... He must be just round the other bit. I'll just go back a bit. Unless he's fallen down. I'll just go and check if it's this. If not, we'll just cheat it and say it's in there somewhere. Isn't it funny that we couldn't find it?
Enjoy.
Well, I'll just look on that. There's a little info thing there. Of course, there's a chance it might have fallen down because that's sort of what was funny about it, is that it was a monument no one can remember, and it was really grand, and I always thought that it might be that way.
I will get through.
The best thing about it for me is that where it says Herbert Campbell, comedian, on that little bit there. I like that.
Very few people have been drunk in a graveyard with Gyuri. Quite trashed now.
Just from that?
Yeah, just from that. It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's because I've not been on tour for 2 years.
You've lost it.
I'm used to like 3 cans of Strongbow per night, you see, and then that I get that tolerance.
Well, that's why all these guys, that's why all their graves, they're 32 years old and stuff, because they were doing 8 gigs a night, and probably having gin in the morning because the water wasn't safe to drink. But yeah.
validation. Do you still dream of being praised by half-wits?
These are good. These are like, it's like an old gas lift from office stool, or any old 60s chairs and stuff had them as well, all that office stool. And basically it's got a little button on there, and you usually have a lever, and when you press it, the lever, it pushes this button in and releases the gas, so you can so it goes down, and then when you press it again, it goes and lifts up. And amazing, if you look in skips, how many people chuck office chairs away. I think it's crazy.
There's some things I miss about Earth, you know. I think some things I do, but I don't miss emotion, really.
No. Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, I suppose you've got emotion about your hairdryer and stuff, haven't you?
Well, no, I miss the fit. Yeah, I guess a little bit, but I miss the feeling it gives me of that fresh, clean feeling. But you know, I don't miss the emotion.
Right.
This is a short documentary film about my dog Castro and his obsession with Castro. Hey Castro. Yeah, he's a bit shy.
I feel that very much sympathies with the people of Canada. Like with the people of the United States. You know, the people of the United States.
While he watches videos of Fidel, I get his gear ready. And there he is, in all his finery. I'm not too happy about this cigar, but he's 5 in human years, so I suppose he's 35 in dog years, so, you know, he's an adult. It's his choice. And I'm just glad he's got a hobby, something that keeps him occupied and out of trouble. We do live in Salford after all.
He put some antibiotic in a needle and put it into a little rocket to send up to try to catch the giant cat and change it back.
We played in Canterbury at the School of Art down there, and we arrived in this building. We were playing, as it turned out, the pub in this very large building. And the building was, I guess school was out, so there was gallery after gallery after beautiful wooden rooms that would have sounded amazing. We had our own PA, we had our own lights, we had our own gear. All we needed was an outlet. And yet we were told we had to play in the pub. They would not let us play in the gallery or any of that. They had 4 galleries or something like that. And we had to play in the pub because that's where music is played, is what we were told. Imagine if we were poets and we could only say poems in crack houses. I don't give a fuck about me so much, but music should be respected.
I sanded the table over and over again, and still the smoothness would not come out. It felt like a dog on a wheel.
Right, this is the grave of Herbert Campbell, whose house we saw earlier. A massive Victorian musical star, pantomime dame, double act partner of Dan Leno. And the man who sort of moved the vulgarity of the music hall into the more respectable world of pantomime. And this is his grave, and it's a fantastic grave. I like the fact that it's so ostentatious, and it says Herbert Campbell, comedian. That's all it says on the upper bit of it, as if that was enough. And yet, you know, it's not even really flagged up or visited much. We've had to pick through here to find it, which just goes to show, you know, you can be the biggest celebrity of the Victorian comedy scene and not really be known 120 years later. Look upon my wonders and despair. Will you be having a monumental grave when you die, Holly?
I don't think, well, it says on there it's erected by a few friends. I don't think I've got a few friends who've got enough money to...
You'd start crowdfunding it now.
Yeah, maybe a sandcastle on Morecambe Beach or something.
Yeah, because that would be about the temporariness of life.
Yeah,
it would fade
totally.
Away.
It's a metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whenever I walk through this cemetery, I always make a point of trying to look at some comedians' graves just to kind of to remember them. And all around London, I always go and try and find the comedians' graves in different cemeteries. And but there's a whole lot clustered here.
And it brings you back down to earth.
Yeah.
Of that, you know, you might be known now, Stewart, but
Yeah.
you know, in 120 years' time, you might be there with a little plaque or gravestone in an overgrown forest that
Yeah.
no one gives two shits.
Forgotten in a bush, yeah. But he's not forgotten because we're here drinking Prosecco.
You know, like the idea of wet, moist, you know, like a mayonnaise, you know, a sandwich with mayonnaise in. Can you imagine that up here?
No, yeah, I can imagine it, but you're not going to get it, are you?
No.
This is proving a real headache.
If I was going down a supermarket,
Yeah,
that would be top shelf stuff. That.
yeah, like what?
Talking about your, you know, your posh dried pasta. Do you know? Quality.
Turns into happy, love-filled tickle fingers. After turning into tickle fingers, they live in tickle finger land for a while to play and...
Here we have all those big old TVs when you had one and put it on your wall. This is one of them, but I just thought, that's great, isn't it? See, what can you use that for? Think of something. I mean, look at that. Why would you throw that away? Beautiful, isn't it? Don't know what to do with it, but it's great. We'll think of something.